I used to keep a never jam gun. Then one day in a class, under the clock, with sweat in my eyes and cheap range ammo in the mags, it coughed. Hard stoppage. Timer kept screaming, and that gun walked itself straight to death row in my safe. That's when never jam stopped being a phrase and turned into a rule. One real failure under pressure, that pistol is done. I don't care how pretty it looks, how much it costs, or how many fanboys swear it runs forever. For this list, I dragged guns through mixed ammo, dry guns, weak hand strings, low light, and long days where everybody else started choking. A couple of high-dollar hype guns flunked this test and never reached the list. If a pistol stumbled once, it never made this video. What's left are the 5 that stayed boring. A full-size legend, a tiny carry gun that punches up, and one pistol that felt excessive but refused to quit. January range day. Wind had already cut through 3 layers, steel sat frosted, and the timer sounded like an insult. I was halfway through a drill when the never jam plastic wonder on my hip locked up. Dead trigger, nose up round, students staring. I cleared it, sent it again, and it choked a second time. That gun hit the frozen bench so hard the whole line jumped. I dug into the bag and ripped out the old Beretta 92 FS, the one I'd called heavy, outdated, too big for modern carry. Cold mags, junk ammo, no fresh lube. I slammed it in, hit the buzzer, and that big slide just started cycling like it was bored. Long strings, transitions, weak hand only, reloads with numb fingers, brass raining, no drama. The only thing failing out there was my pride. Since that day, lighter guns, sexier guns, smarter guns have all taken a turn on death row. The Beretta still hasn't earned a single jam from me. And that's the part that actually bothers me now. Standing on a frozen line, waiting for the first time this thing lies too, and not knowing what gets sentenced after that. I never trusted tiny 9mm carry guns. Short sight radius, jumpy recoil, not much to grab if something went wrong. The P365 still ended up in my waistband anyway, mostly because it disappeared under a t-shirt and carried more rounds than it should have. Every gas station run, every late-night parking lot, it rode with a question mark over it. One day I got tired of that doubt and took it out to die. Mixed hollow points and the worst steel case garbage I had. Draw from concealment, fast pairs at 7 yards, one-hand strings, support hand strings, shooting with a lazy grip just to see if it coughed. That little gun snapped, bucked, barked, and just kept cycling. No nosedives, no half feeds, no give me a second hesitation. The bigger guns on the bench felt calmer, but none of them were the one living under my belt all week. I still watched this thing like a suspect, waiting for the first lie so I could toss it on death row with the others. It never gave me one, and that's what kept bothering me. A gun this small, this easy to carry, surviving that kind of beating, while something much larger and more serious, higher on this list, had already failed its chance. 2 weeks ago, I finally snapped and decided I was done saying Glock 19 in these videos. Comments, buddies, even my own brain had been rolling their eyes. So I parked the Gen 5 in the back of the safe and spent a weekend trying to replace it like it never mattered. Metal frames, fancy triggers, micro compacts with optics, all the stuff people swear has moved past Glock. Same drills, same ammo, same weather, draws from concealment, reloads on the clock, one-hand strings, junk range ammo mixed with carry loads. And one by one, the replacements started showing their teeth. Random stovepipe, ejection, a mag that wouldn't drop free, a dot that walked just enough to make hits weird. Out of spite, I dragged the 19 back out and ran the same block. No drama, no personality, just a dull, flat line of brass in the dirt, and a timer that suddenly looked calmer. When I looked at the notes that night, every other gun had a little mark in the malfunction column. The 19's row was empty. I didn't feel proud. I felt cornered, staring at the gun I've wanted to retire more than any of the ones it quietly outlived. It has never been my crush gun. It's a brick, A square German toolbox with a trigger that feels like it was built by engineers who hate joy. For a long time, it just sat in the corner of the safe. The in case something breaks gun. And then we had one of those range days that turns gear into trash. Heat, dust, mixed shooters, mixed ammo, dots fogging, screws backing out, striker guns coughing random stovepipes, mags hitting the dirt, and not wanting to work right again. I started building a little graveyard on the bench. Guns that needed just a second kept getting benched. The one pistol that never left rotation was the USP. Hot, filthy, bounced off barricades, shot one-handed, shot by people who barely knew how to grip a gun. It just kept cycling. No nosedives, no mystery click, nothing. When somebody's gun died and they still needed to finish a drill, this is what I handed them without even thinking. My rule is simple. One real jam under pressure, and a pistol goes on death row. This thing hasn't even had a trial. And the scariest part, there's a much smaller gun higher on this list that somehow walked through the same abuse without flinching. End of the day, the Shield Plus has been the gun I kept closest to the bed and the least excited to talk about. Sweat-stained holster, lint in the magwell, Texas heat baking it against my side, while I pumped gas or watched some idiot stare too long at my truck. The fancy stuff sat wiped down in the safe. This little M&P just kept punching the clock. I never built some pretty test for it. Abuse showed up in slow motion, weeks of carry, then straight to the range with the same crude in the striker channel. Bulk 115, crusty steel case, my carry load mixed in on top, draws from concealment, fast pairs at 7 yards, rushed reloads with dirty mags slamming concrete. If any pistol deserved an excuse to cough, it was this one. It never did. My rule stayed simple. One honest failure when it actually matters, and that gun gets pushed to the back of the safe and forgotten. The Shield Plus hasn't earned that trip. What really got in my head was catching myself reaching for it before walking into the sketchy parts of town, while better pistols just sat there posing. And sitting off to the side, there's a heavier, louder bonus gun that ended up earning the same level of trust in a completely different, much nastier way. The Shadow 2 Compact has always felt like overkill. Too heavy, too tuned, too pretty for grocery runs. First time I brought it out for a long steel day, guys laughed like I'd showed up with a race car to a tractor pull. I loaded it anyway and decided it was getting treated like every other gun in this never jam mess. Timer on, plates screaming, reloads on the move, different shooters cycling through it, mixed ammo that would have made a gunsmith twitch. The gun didn't care. The dot snapped back, the slide ran like it was on ball bearings, and it just kept eating. The only thing getting exposed out there was me. Every time I yanked a shot or broke my grip, the Shadow made it obvious. I couldn't blame recoil, trigger, or some mystery feed issue. Reliability was so clean, it stripped away every excuse I usually hide behind when I miss. The work guns on this list earned trust by surviving ugly days. The Shadow 2 Compact did something worse. It stayed perfect while I ran out of alibis. If anything failed on that line, it wore my name, not CZ's. So that's the ugly truth. These weren't the trendiest pistols. They were just the ones that never jammed on me when everything got mean. The 5 you saw here all lived through the same filthy drills that retired other reliable heroes. There's a whole separate pile I never even showed. A striker idol that face planted on steel, a bargain wonder that shook itself loose, a heavy metal classic that earned a single jam and never got a second chance. They all sat this one out. I'm Steve. If you have a gun that truly hasn't choked on you, say how you ran it and how hard. I've already made some people mad just by leaving favorites off. And that failure pile in the corner, it has already grown heavier than this list and it still hasn't stopped. Still